Good evening again, brothers and sisters. In the media land, we want to say a pleasant welcome and a happy new year to everyone. Welcome to my Lutheran Connection um, podcast. Today, again, we have a very interesting program. We have with us our brother Jerry Tablo. He's joining us from our studio there in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And our brother Josiah F. Jokai Jr. He's joining us from our studio in Connecticut, and I'm right here in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Um, with us today, we have the Reverend Dr. Eric M. Allison. He is our guest today, and we will be joining our studio host in Connecticut to take the program. He's going to be our lead host today, and we say thank you very much again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Willie. To be with you, my brothers. Thank you, Willie. Happy New Year, Dr. Allison. It's really good having you. Today we're going to be in conversation with you. It's an honor for all of us. My colleague Jerry there in Freetown will be coming on shortly after the intro. But I just like to say on behalf of the team, you're most welcome to my Lutheran Connections online TV. We come on every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and 8 p.m. GMT. That's also Liberian time. So we are pleased to have you as our guest today. And today we're going to be having a panorama look at events in the Lutheran Church since our establishment, as a church in Liberia in 1860, looking at some of the impacts we've made in that country in terms of emotional development, advancement of Christianity, education, and healthcare. And we thought you are one of the leaders in the Lutheran Church with 4 insights to be able to discuss these issues today. That's why we're having you. But let me just tell you a little bit as to who our guest is. Reverend Dr. Eric M. Allison was ordained as pastor of the Lutheran Church in Liberia in 1992. And since then, he continues to serve the church. He obtained a bachelor's in general theology from the Banga School of Theology. He obtained his master's of theology from the Tumani University and earned his doctor of ministry from the Wesley Theological Seminary in the United States. He's married with many children and currently lives in the United States. Pastor Allison is the pastor of the People's Community Lutheran Church in Baltimore, Maryland. Today, like I said, we are going to be looking at important subject. It has to do with the role of the Lutheran Church in Liberia as far as its contribution to the Liberian society is concerned. But first, let me just let you know that we are all believers in Christ because we believe in the scriptures and the scriptures alone. And I know Dr. Harrison also believes in that. That's why he's here. Also, we are followers of the great German theologian and religious reformer, Martin Luther, who propounded the 95 Theses. The 2 main ideas of his thesis states that the Bible is the central religious authority, and we humans can reach our salvation only by faith and not by our deeds. This principle sparked the Protestant Reformation and gave birth to Lutheranism globally. And graciously today, we can proudly call ourselves Lutherans because we believe this biblical principle, just as Martin Luther did in the 16th century. But what does it mean to be a Liberian Lutheran Christian? Since its establishment in Liberia in 1860 by missionaries of the ELCA, what impact has the Lutheran Church in Liberia made towards spiritual, emotional, and physical growth in the country? particularly in the areas of education, healthcare, and advancement of Christianity in our society. No other person is best suited to discuss this important topic other than Dr. Eric Molly Allison. Dr. Allison, we want to say welcome to the show. And the first question we're going to
Thank
ask
you.
you is to tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of some of those choices that you made way back many years ago. We don't even remember when you were making the decision to become a Lutheran. Did you really have choices? Or it was just one of those regular things like all of us, on the show here today, we were all born into Lutheran families, and so automatically we became Lutherans. So tell us a little bit about that, and then your work in the church.
Thank you very much, brother. Um, I hope you allow me to call you by your first names,
Yeah.
Josiah and Jerry and Willie. Thank you all very much for having me on this program, my Lutheran Connections. I'm proud to be a Lutheran Christian in the world today, a member of the Communion of Lutheran Christians globally. I I was actually born uh, in a Lutheran family. My dad uh, was at the time of my birth an evangelist who had just graduated from the Lutheran Training Institute in the late 50s. And my mother is the niece, she's still alive. She's the niece of the first president of the evangelical, of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, the late Right Reverend Ezra D. Keller. And also the niece of one of the longest serving pastors of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, the late Reverend Baron Z. Traub. So that's the family I was born in during the Todmon administration. um, so, but growing up in this family, there was a lot of emphasis on education. So I had to remain focused through the parental care provided by my parents, focus on my education. I went to the Lutheran school system. St. Peter's, I was fortunate to have attended the St. Peter's Lutheran School in St. Paul, 14th Street. And then I matriculated to the Lutheran Training Institute, LTI, in Saleh, Lofa County. Fortunately, I was chosen by the LTI and the government of Liberia through the Ministry of Education to spend a year in the States in 1979 to 1980 until the coup. After the coup, I came back home and I had a mind to study medicine. So I matriculated at the University of Liberia in the early 1980s, spent almost 4 years, and then God disrupted my life and turned me around and to the pastoral ministry. I transferred my credits to the Banga School of Theology from the University of Liberia Science College, and in the late 80s, 1987 to be specific. And since then, I have not looked back in my theological sojourn, my pastoral ministry training, and ministry to God and humanity through the Lutheran community, Lutheran Christian community in Liberia, in West Africa, Africa, and the world as a whole. So that's why today I'm here in the U.S., specifically in Pennsylvania. We reside in a borough called Clifton Heights, right outside of Philadelphia. But I serve 100 miles away a holy Liberian congregation within the Delaware, Maryland Synod of the ELCA. That's where I am currently, having served more than 2 years now as their pastor. So that's where I am. That's where God has me so far.
Interesting journey. And I can see how your dream of becoming, either a medical doctor or a medical practitioner, let's say, was shelter, but for the good, because you became a shepherd in the Lord's vineyard, winning souls for Christ, which is good. We want to say congratulations on those great achievements. And as I indicated before, now I can safely say that all of us here, we never had choices, or let's say we had limited choices in terms of what motivated us to becoming Lutherans. We all were born in, the Lutheran families, and automatically we became Lutherans. We all have similar stories, mom, dad, everybody Lutherans, and you come and see them, your sisters and brothers, and you all continue. On that note, great experience. Thanks for sharing that. But can we just know a little bit about your work in the Lutheran Church in terms of some of the things you have done beyond your education?
You mean in terms of what?
As a pastor, your service? Just
okay. When I completed my diploma studies in 1989, I as you know, that's when the Civil War commenced. So I was forced to spend like 2 years as an intern pastor with several parishes. First with Barnesville Parish in Monserrado County, and then on to St. John's in Zozo, and then at St. Mark's in Banga, and then later on I received my ordination in 1992 through the late Bishop Dr. Ronald J. Dix, aided by retired Bishop Dr. Roland J. Ping, and then board chairperson, the late Dr. Sumo E. Harris, a former bishop, peace be to his soul, of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. So, and then after that, after my ordination, I served as a parish pastor. After my ordination, my first pastorate was the Barnesville Lutheran Parish in Barnesville Township, Moroville District, LCL, for roughly 15 years, 1990 to 2005. Yes, 2005, because I was still with Barnesville Parish when I went to earn my master's in Tanzania, in East Africa, at the Tumaini University, the largest Lutheran university in East Africa. So I left the parish ministry in 2005, and then I was assigned as a Lutheran representative at the Banga School of Theology, where we were involved in the Ministry of Leadership Development, helping to produce leaders for the church, the Liberian church, and other churches in other parts of West Africa and Africa as a whole, and also for the Liberian Society and other societies in West Africa and other parts of Africa, Angola, Mozambique. We train pastors at GST to serve those countries. Some of them have become bishops today. Angola, Mozambique, Nigeria, Sierra Leone. That's where I served from 2005 to 2017, when I left to come to the States because of some family issues.
Wow, that's great achievement. And you've just said something that I haven't heard of much. I don't know about my colleagues Willie and Jerry, your role in helping to train pastors, from other countries. That's something we hardly hear about. That's a great achievement. And I think during the course of the conversation, probably you'll be able to throw light on that much. For now, I will go over to my colleague Jerry, who will take it from here. Jerry?
Thank you so much, Josiah. And I again want to extend my profound appreciation to Reverend Dr. Eric Allison. It is a pleasure to have you on this network. As you may well know, you are here for us to discuss some substantive issues, issues that has to do with the shortcoming of the LCL, the gains and area of improvement. And as my colleague Josiah said in the intro, if we are talking about historical highlights of the LCL, you are just the best candidate that we can invite to give us some information that we may know, some information that we may not know, and some information that we need to know together so that we can be able to make the improvement. But I want to go directly to this whole issue of saying the truth as we are Christians. The truth is painful, but it's necessary to be told. Do you think that Lutheran Church in Liberia is in a cynical state of growth without development? If not, what do you view as the new challenges that we can start to work on to make the necessary improvement? So I go again. Do you see our church, the Lutheran Church in Liberia, in a cycle or a state of growth without development?
I wish you could restate that question. Your audio, the feed is not coming too clearly, Jerry. I don't know if any of your colleagues can restate that question.
Hello, Ravi, are you getting me clearly now?
Yes, that's better. That's better.
Okay, good. So I said that we are here to look at the shortcomings, the gains, and area of improvement as it relates to the Lutheran Church in Liberia. And okay. I would just want to begin by getting your view, as I stated initially, that the truth sometimes can be painful, but it is necessary that it is told. Do you think, or what's your view of the state of the Lutheran Church in Liberia? Is it in a cynical state of growth without development? What is your view? What do you think of that?
Okay, Jerry, as you know, every organization or institution has a birth or inception or founding or establishment, and then that institution, organization, or entity goes through a period of growth and development, as you define it, depending on what perspective you're talking about in terms of development, what kind of development you're talking about. But as you know, the Lutheran Church in Liberia is 100 and will be 162 years in April this year, April 2022, 162 years old. The church has gone through a very challenging period of growth in ministry to serving God and serving the Liberian people over the last 162 years, and in its tripartite areas of ministry: the preaching ministry, the educational ministry, or the teaching ministry, through educational institutions, primary, secondary, and some attempt at tertiary education at certain periods in its history, and then in the healing ministry through the establishment, operation, and maintenance of healthcare delivery institutions, clinics, hospitals over the years, and especially in the area of healthcare workers educational training program. I think the Lutheran Church in Liberia has made headways in that sector of training healthcare workers. I would say the Lutheran Church in Liberia is a pioneer in that area of healthcare worker education and training in the country over the last 162 years. As you know, right now, the Lutheran Church in Liberia is operating an undergraduate degree granting healthcare college, the Phoebe College of Health Sciences, based at on 2 satellite campuses, Phoebe, Swakoko, and the current hospital in Zozo, as a part of the flagship project of the church, the Lutheran University in Liberia, which the church is currently working on with its partners, the Association of Liberian Lutherans in the Americas, and other partners, our traditional partners as a church. So definitely, I think the church has made headways, Jerry, over the years. The church has made headways. The church has contributed tremendously to the spiritual, to the social, and to the educational and healthcare development activities of the country and its people. So, in terms of being in a state of growth without development, again, growth can be categorized in several ways. You have growth in faith. We've been growing in our faith as a church. Growth in our theological understanding of ourselves as a people, as a community of faith. Remember, the Lutheran Church in Liberia is the oldest Lutheran Christian community on the continent of Africa. We may not be the largest, and that has a reason why we have been having challenges with our membership statistics development. But in terms of impact, I think the church has made tremendous impact, Jerry. In terms of development, like I said, spiritual growth and development, development in the sense of developing institutions, educational institutions, healthcare delivery institutions of spiritual growth, congregations, parishes. And so the church has made significant contribution, Jerry, to the social and the social growth and development of the country.
Okay, so just a follow-up, Reverend Josiah, Reverend. Thank you. I think it is no doubt that from the 1860 up to 2022, we should be counting 160 years. And if you talk about the LCL, the National Church, the LCL, January 6, 1965 to 2022, we approximately talking about 57 years. Looking at that, but you wanted some specifics, and first we wanted to come from the generic, then we start to go down to the specifics. So it is good that you start to talk about the whole issue of human resource development and the spiritual growth of the church in terms of the spirituality of its members, so to speak. I'm concerned, and you served in that function before as the liaison of the church at the Banga School of Theology, which is a collaboration of the Episcopal Church and the United Methodist Church, as well as the Lutheran Church. Within hearing, it may be true, you are here today, you are the historian, you will clarify our doubts, that we, once upon a time, decided not to be part of that, and we wanted to have our own seminary established to train our pastors. We're talking about expansion. We're talking about expanding our Episcopal jurisdiction, so to speak. We need more pastors to try to see how we can be able to send them out. What has been the effort so far? How far are we in terms of establishing or constructing our own seminary to train our pastors? So we can start from there in terms of growth, in terms of development. Let's look at the spiritual aspect in training human resource capacity. That is our own pastor in showing that we, as a church, can be able to expand our Episcopal jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I hope I understand your concern. That is, why is it that the LCL has not been able to establish, to operate, and maintain her own theological training program? Is that the concern? But I'll tell you,
Yes,
Jerry,
after
the LCL over its the period of its growth and development has um, what should I say, operated a theological training program, leadership development program of its ministers and church workers. We have been doing that in an ecumenical way, through ecumenical partnerships with our sister churches in Liberia, specifically the United Methodist Church, the Episcopal Church, and to some extent, basically the United Methodist Church and the Episcopal Church, those two churches in Liberia and the Lutheran Church in Liberia have collaborated in an ecumenical spirit and partnership to operate a theological training program for their pastors and their church workers for more than 30 years. Those three churches operated the Banga School of Theology since 1972 to 2000. Let's say from 1972 to 2000, those three churches in an ecumenical spirit, an ecumenical partnership, operated a joint theological college and seminary known and styled as the Banga School of Theology. And I'll tell you, that institution trained two of our bishops in the presence of the late Bishop Dr. Small E. Harris, who just joined the Communion of Saints in 2021, and the current Bishop of the LCL, Dr. D. Jensen St. Claude. These are products of the Banga School of Theology. And nearly, I would say 90% of our current active roster of pastors and retired pastors of the LCL are all products of the Banga School of Theology, which was an ecumenical theological college and seminary that served the Christian community and other churches in, like I said, in West Africa and other parts of Africa and the world. So, except you want me to comment on LCL attempt to go solo to establish and operate and maintain and support its own theological education program. That's a different conversation altogether.
Exactly, Reverend. And that's the point I will intervene a little bit. We really appreciate the tripartite arrangement. With the Lutheran Church, the Episcopal Church, and the Methodist Church. I mean, that was historic. That was great. Many of the products are around not only in Liberia but other countries across Africa who benefited from that arrangement, from that great institution, the Banga School of Theology. And Jerry was specific when he said, we would like to know as to whether or not the Romans, it's true that the Lutheran Church wants to go solo. That's the first thing we want you to establish, that we want to go solo. We want to establish our own pastoral development or religious leaders development program. How do we want to do it? How are we going about it? How did that conversation come about? How realistic it is? Where are we with it? That exactly is the question I'm sure we're interested in, and many of our viewers would like to hear from you.
You mean the LCL desire to develop its own theological education training program.
Yes. And where are we with it?
Okay. Let me put it this way. When the United Methodist Christians in Liberia decided to establish, own, and operate a tertiary institution that we call today the United Methodist University in Liberia or West Africa, they decided to put several colleges online, and one of those colleges that they put online was the Banga School of Theology. And the way how they did that again is an area that I may not want to go too deep into, because it borders along what I call ecumenical issues between the Methodist Church in Liberia and the Lutheran Church in Liberia. But to be brief, to be specific, what the Methodist Church did was to annex the Banga School of Theology to the then United Methodist University as its constituent college of theology. And if you would notice, that was done between 1998 and 2000. So in 2005, that program had gone about 5 to 7 years. In 2005, when I returned with my graduate training, the Lutheran Church assigned me to the United Methodist University College of Theology as the LCL's representative responsible for the recruitment, training, and development of leaders, pastoral leaders of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. So the Lutheran Church in Liberia did not see the need to go solo at the time, since 1998 to 2000, to go solo in terms of establishing its own theological training. We already had a seminary there that we worked together with the two other churches, Methodist and Episcopalian, for more than 30 years. So the Lutheran Church did not see the need to go solo to establish a definitively Lutheran, flavor theological college or seminary. We just continued. That's why the LCL had its representative. I was there as the arm, the legs, and the mouth, the ears, and the eyes of the bishop and the BMTEA and the executive council. So I was there as the LCL ambassador to the Methodist Church and the university and the college. So we made sure that our future pastors were trained in accordance with the doctrines, with the policies and theology of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. I taught specific courses that had to do with Lutheran theology and Lutheran church governance systems and Lutheran practice. Wasn't much of a problem in terms of having to establish our separate theological college until recent times. That's a different conversation.
Reverend, I know you keep saying that's a different conversation, but there is no other person well suited to talk about this than you, because you were our ambassador. You were assigned specifically to deal with that issue. And some of our critics, Lutheran critics, will say, why were we taken by surprise, the transitioning of the Methodist Church educational program to a full university, a tertiary educational system? Why were we surprised as Lutherans that we didn't position ourselves, that we didn't see this coming? Why weren't we proactive to have also taken measures to enable us to fully establish our own institution even before the tripartite arrangement will have experienced, such boat-rocking situation. Because to tell you the truth, that agreement is not really working as it was established. I think we are just trying to keep it going somehow until we can have our own initiative, our own theological initiative, training initiative. It's not working. Is that the case? It's not really working, that agreement. I think the Methodists have gone, they're running a fully established program.
We are discussing the life and ministries of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. So as a representative of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, specifically responsible at the time for theological education for the church and on behalf of the church, we really did not see the need to establish a specific Lutheran theological college and seminary, because we believed and we felt that an institution already existed that was equipped, that was well staffed to provide the kind of theological training that our church needed for her pastors. So that's one of the reasons why the Lutheran Church in Liberia did not see the need to, you might use the word, break away, from the ecumenical partnership. And that decision still has not yet been taken, as far as my knowledge is concerned. Currently, we have an LCL representative who succeeded me at the Banga School of Theology at the United Methodist University in the person of the Reverend J. Louis McKay. He is the current LCL representative to the Banga School of Theology, responsible for the training of Lutheran candidates, Lutheran trainees at the Banga School of Theology. Until at such time when the church sees the need to have its own or to develop its own, maybe in a bigger way, a tertiary institution that will have a college, a specific college of theology and ministry, then we can talk about, having a specifically designed Lutheran Theological College and Seminary. But until that time, the church will decide, when we get to that bridge, we'll decide how to cross it.
Josiah, I just want to come in. I just want to come in on this, and then maybe we'll just close on it, because I see Reverend Dr. Allison is very carefully answering this question, and especially when he comes to say that there are some underlying issues that he won't want to diverge for, the economical relationship, symbiotic relationship that we have. So, Reverend, let me put the question this.
Jerry.
Let me put the question this. Yeah.
Just before you ask your question, let me say that Dr. Allison is right, because he just hit the point. He gave the baton to Reverend McKay. And I think Reverend McKay is best suited to sit with us and exclusively talk about this GST issue in terms of where we are right now as a church. And I tend to agree with Dr. Allison. He did his part and he turned over to Reverend McKay. Reverend McKay is in charge. I think we should bring Reverend McKay on to sit with us and exclusively talk about this GST issue. After you, Jerry, then we'll take Willie. And then after Willie, we can move to another aspect of our conversation.
Another aspect, thank you. Granted, Josiah. Reverend Allison, come on. I mean, we as I read, I learned about the Emma A. Davis and then David Day that was merged into the LTI that started to train, young scholars like you. I mean, like you rightly stated, and then going on to I think we got one in Totota called the Lay Training Institute, something that training some of our deacons and deaconesses. Going there. I think we had a diaconal program that we call the the Bible translation, something. We were connected to that, and we were translating, verses of the Bible or scriptures or something into our vernacular and all that kind of stuff. This thing. So when you talk about the Lutheran Church making those kind of significant contributions, we are so impressed. But the benchmarks there, the baselines there, we got the well-to-do, we got the capacity and the capability. People like you, those individuals who were trained by the GST. What bridge we got to wait for to cross? Can you tell us that bridge? Then we can move on. If you don't know the answer, then maybe Mary McKay can come to tell us the bridge. But Jerry, the bridge, we want to know.
Jerry, your audio is not too clear. I wish we can improve on your audio output, Jerry. Please. I don't know if Josiah or Willie can maybe repeat Jerry's concern or question. Then I can, if I can address it, I can do that. Otherwise,
absolutely. Jerry, can you hear me clearly, Reverend?
Yeah, I hear you. Josiah.
Very good. Jerry is concerned about, your consistent indication of a bridge that we need to cross, as far as establishing our own theological seminary, training institute as a Lutheran church. And he outlined all of the great achievements we've made in the education sector, translating, verses of the Bible into the vernacular, establishing other educational institutions, GST, for example, which you've elaborated enormously. So he's concerned. So what bridge now are we waiting for? Because we have the expertise in the church. He named you as an example of such product, someone who can readily lead such process in the church. So his concern is you keep emphasizing that, when we reach that bridge, we will cross. He wants to know, what is that bridge? Jerry, is that a question?
Exactly. That is the question. Is it to write the curriculum? Is it to find the billing? Is it to find the instructors? What is the bridge?
Don't we have all?
But Jerry, I mean, like we are saying, the LCL currently has a representative, a duly appointed representative to the Banga School of Theology, which is part of the United Methodist University, responsible for the training of pastors of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. I left that post since 2017, almost 5 years ago now. So, like we are saying, if we can get Reverend McKay, Professor J. Louis McKay, on this program, on this platform, I think he can give a much clearer, a much more official position of the LCL on this matter. But I will only be speaking here with a limited authority.
Willie, I'm going to bring you in shortly, but I beg your indulgence, please. I would like to really follow up on Jerry's question because it has given me a new perspective. Yeah. Reverend, let's assume that the GST arrangement, we can have Pastor McKay to come to discuss it exclusively. Great.
Okay.
Granted. But let me ask you this question as an educator, as a religious leader that we look up to in the Lutheran Church. Let me ask you this question. Do we have all it takes? Do we have all it takes to establish our own theological seminary? Do we have all it takes to establish it as a church? The resources, the human resources, the infrastructure, do we have all it takes to establish it?
Josiah, I cannot answer that question with a yes or no, because as far as my knowledge is concerned, um, though I left, uh, our native homeland in less than 5 years ago, almost a little over 4 years now, but as I've still been in touch. I'm in touch and actively in touch, actively involved with the life of the church. And so there is a process which all of you are aware of. There's a process that is ongoing right now in the direction of the establishment, the operation, the maintenance, and the support of a tertiary institution to be owned and operated by the Lutheran Church in Liberia. And that, like I said, that process has gotten off the ground. We have the first constituent college of that tertiary institution. As you know, that institution was launched officially at the convention at Phoebe, the biannual convention at Phoebe in 2021. If I'm not mistaken, all of you were there, including Willie. I was not there, but and then in that process, as part of that process of the development of a tertiary institution, that is a university program, which is an extension, which is a part of the educational ministry of the LCL. There are constituent colleges that are being developed. They are in process. They are in in the pipeline, and one of them happens to be a college of theology and missions, a college of theology and missions. The I can refer you to the Reverend Jesse G.S. King Sr., who is the current coordinator of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, the Lutheran University in Liberia project. He is the national coordinator for the Lutheran University in Liberia right now. And since he's a trained pastor, a trained theologian, a church historian, he will be in a better position to speak more on the details of the process of bringing this College of Theology, which will be a constituent college of the Lutheran University program in Liberia. So I think that's how far. Yeah, we do have everything that is required to operate a college of theology as a national church, the Lutheran Church in Liberia. We do have the resources. We have the human resources, and I believe we have the moral resources, the spiritual resources.
All right, folks. We. Oh, okay. We just lost the Reverend shortly, but Reverend, are you okay now? Did you complete your question? Your response?
Yeah, I think okay, if
okay.
I don't know if
he did extremely well.
No, he did well.
And at the end of it, he responded to the question directly. He said, "Yes,
yeah,
we have the resources. We have the resources." And I like the approach to his response. I mean, he gave a historical perspective, which is very good, and a reference as well to Reverend King. Yes, we've worked with Reverend King in different ways. Definitely, he will be one of those we'll bring on from the Lutheran University perspective to have similar conversation. But we appreciate the fact that you acknowledge, the existence of the resources that we have, the capacity of the church to be able to establish a college of theology within the proposed Lutheran University. I think that is good. Folks, you are viewing my Lutheran Connection online TV. This is our Sunday edition. We come to you at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and 8 p.m. GMT. That's Liberian time. Today we are having the Reverend Dr. Eric M. Allison. Dr. Allison is resourceful, a religious leader, highly respected in the Lutheran Church in Liberia and Liberia as a whole. He is a historian when it comes to understanding the works of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. That is why we are having him today to share some of the insights with us. At this time, we'll go over to our colleague, Willie. Willie will be the one to ask the last question. I think he has a comment or a question, a Facebook comment or a question for Reverend Allison on this subject. After that, we'll be moving to a different aspect of our conversation. Willie.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask this question, but one of our viewers just asked this question. So the question is in twofold. I'm going to project the first one. We're going to take a look at it, and it's from one of our brothers. His name is Sizik Goya. He said, if three denominations operate a single training program for the training of their leaders, what is the logical argument? I think what is the logical argument for, I think it's not remaining separate denominations. And I want to add that if the three of them, if the three institutions came together and funded this religious training institution to train leaders for the church, just how the brother just mentioned, but the Methodists, one of the joint partners, the Methodists, decided to annex this institution under the the United Methodist University. Okay, to annex the institution under United Methodist University. Do we still consider this as us being in this tripartite arrangement, or we are just holding on to because for now we don't have an area to train our church leaders? Do we still have equal share? Because initially that was the vision. Three religious institutions came together to form something, but one of them decided to take the whole share. Do we still consider ourselves as being part of the three now, or we are just, kind of clinching on to this relationship because we do not have an institution to train our church leaders?
We have a joke, we call it the marriage. The marriage started having problems or challenges during the administration of Bishop Sumowo E. Harris of the LCL, because he was in office between those years, 1998 to 2012. But specifically, Bishop Harris was bishop when our Methodist brothers and sisters in Liberia decided to annex the Banga School of Theology as a constituent college under the then United Methodist University program in Liberia. When that happened, the Lutheran Church in Liberia, of course, expressed her position, made her position known very clearly to the United Methodist, our ecumenical sister church, the United Methodist Church, and then the Lutheran Church in Liberia decided to not to sever its ties or relationship with the Methodist Church in Liberia. What the Lutheran Church did was to accept the reality of the annexing of the college, because even the board of governors that represented the three churches was dissolved. The board of governors was dissolved. That means we did not have Episcopalian and Lutheran representatives on the board of GST, because GST was now under the United Methodist University, which has its own board of trustees. And so we let that go, and then we decided as a church to continue to train our pastors at the college. And that's why I said this was one of the reasons behind the church assigning me as its representative to the college and the university. From 2005 to 2012, I served during those years, and I served faithfully. And a lot of our pastors were trained at GST, at the bachelor's level, and lately at the graduate level, the master's level. So I wouldn't, there have been some advantages and disadvantages of doing that, but like I said, in recent times, the LCL is on the trajectory to developing its own tertiary institution. But again, we're not doing it in isolation of our sister churches in Liberia, our ecumenical partners. We're not an island as a church. Ecumenism is the best approach to Christian ministry anywhere in the world today. So in fact, we're going back to the prayer of our Lord Jesus Christ in St. John chapter 17, the high priestly prayer of our Lord Jesus Christ, in whom all Lutheran Christians believe as our Lord and Savior. He prayed that all his disciples in the world may be one, as he, Christ, and the Father and the Holy Spirit are one, that we may all be one. So that's the spirit of ecumenism, and that has to be reflected practically and concretely in every nation where the church is established, and Liberia is no exception. So we must be open-minded and broad-minded enough to see ourselves not as an island, as the Lutheran Church in Liberia, but to see ourselves as a part of a bigger and larger Christian family in Liberia, and that we can do a lot together.
Again, folks, we want to say sorry for the break-in transmission from our guests. I think there's this downpour of rain in Baltimore area, so they should be having some connection issues. But however it is, we are going to stick around and make sure to keep the program going.
Right.
So as the Reverend was saying that he went out, as the Reverend was saying, and we have our viewers, a lot of questions that are coming in, but again he tried to be so much careful in his response, because we have he's not in that position right now, he's not serving that role, and he we have a current liaison.
Willie, I think I have a different. I think I have a different view. I don't think the Reverend was being careful anymore. The fact that he indicated that the marriage had issues.
Exactly.
That alone spoke to the fact that the ecumenical relationship, was not holding as envisioned.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, I think the positive in that is the fact that the Lutheran Church sees that as a challenge to be able to establish its own tertiary educational system, like a university that will include a college of theology to start training its own pastors, its own religious leaders. I think that's a positive takeaway from that whole crack in the ecumenical marriage that he referenced. Yes, he tried to be careful from the beginning not to come with the specifics because he's no longer in that position, and anyone will definitely do that. True to the respect of the person who's serving in the position right now, Reverend Mackay. I think that's the best thing, to bring Reverend Mackay over to exclusively talk about the GST situation. But when we come back, I think we should try to find out from Reverend Allison as to whether or not, the growth and development in the Lutheran Church when it comes to spirituality, it comes to education, comes to healthcare, that Jerry, acknowledged from the outset and raised concerns about whether or not we are on track, whether or not we're having a mechanism to sustain such growth and development in the church. I think the Reverend should be able to talk about that. Where is our faith right now? Where are we right now? Are we still part of that community of the moral voice of the society? If you bring into perspective the days of Marco Pakla Francis, you know what you're talking about. Those were times when the LCC spoke. People listen, government listen, talk about moral issues in society. Are we having that, or is there a decline? Are we experiencing a decline? Are we experiencing a decline in our contribution to education in the country, or are we on track? I think these are some gray areas that we'll want the Reverend to share.
Absolutely, Brother Jokai. That again, unfortunately, the Reverend had to drop out, but he should be connecting in very shortly. Are we still maintaining that voice, in the country? I mean, the Lutheran Church in Liberia, because I remember back when the religious, the interreligious council was founded. The Lutheran Church in Liberia, one of those like founding members of the interreligious council, and I also serve on the youth decks along with the brother Adam Antombekai and the rest of the other folks. I mean, when it comes to education, when it comes to speaking on social justice issues, I mean, do we still maintain that top, that top seat? I would say, are we still are we up there? I mean, when the issue of COVID was actually very hard, like the third wave in Liberia, when institutions were sending out, memos and other, things like that. I mean, our church did host too, but I mean, in all fairness, it was a little bit late. And looking at some of the institutions that we have when it comes to our contribution to the health sector, I think we should have been one of those voices that will be sounding very, very, very loud and far when it comes to issues like this. So are we there? Do we consider that as a decline? And again, unfortunately, the Reverend is not here, but we will be joining the Reverend shortly. So I mean, brother,
Yeah.
Tabo can come in, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's out. Jerry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Are you
okay.
getting me?
Yeah. And I think it's something that we should hear more from the Reverend about, in terms of where are we now as a church with all of these things, that constitute our strive towards realizing Jesus's mission of preaching, healing, and teaching. You know.
You will know that we were born in America.
Okay, folks. I think we are having technical issues. My colleagues are back. Willie is back here. Jerry, can you hear
I was trying to reach out to the to our guests. That's the reason why I just stepped out of the studio quickly.
Okay, is he coming back on, or is he still experiencing?
Yeah, he's coming back on. He's coming back on.
Connection.
He's coming back on.
Okay, Jerry, are you okay now? Technically, I think Jerry should be having technical issues as well. Willie? I think Jerry should be having technical issues as well. So, folks, we're just waiting for our guests to reconnect so that we will be able to cover the last segment of the show today, which has to do with whether or not our church is on track as far as spiritual development, family development in our society, contribution to education, to healthcare in our society, as to whether or not we are on track with those programs, with those initiatives. Jerry, you are back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Josiah, and thank you, Willie. Yes, I was saying, it's all about expanding the church. It's all about winning souls, and we are in a century that takes into consideration multifaceted, approaches when it comes to the issue of winning souls. Like before, when the missionaries came, they look at the issue of establishing health, centers to reach out to the people in the community. They later on went on to establish the issue of educational institutions to train people, which our pastors, benefited from today, and they are leaders of the church. And then gradually it went on to other areas, for example, trauma healing. As I was talking about some of the DACODA programs, the trauma healing, the HIV/AIDS, all of those things, started to come out to help society. Where we are now, if you look at the statistic, and that is some of the moral roles that the church should play in the society, not to only say, okay, yes, we're going to win souls, but there should be some traction.
Right.
So if you look at our population, they're estimated to almost 4.5 in Liberia. More 60% or so are young people.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing to ensure that we help these young people to develop spiritually, as well as socially, as well as, physically? Like we had the opportunity to benefit from the church before.
Right.
Where are we now?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that?
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of young people who are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Other churches that I would say sometimes that are older than are reaching out. That's why we're asking the Reverend, are we still in a cycle of a kind of visual cycle, just turning around into the same trauma healing, into the same? What other additions have been made since 1860 or 1962? What other additions have been made? What is the signature when we talk about trauma healing now in the 21st century? What's the signature, or what we say, the pointer that you could look at now and say, look, this is what the Lutheran Church in Liberia is endeavoring to do. You see, we talk about the message.
So, Jerry, You are making a very good point. You are making a very good point. What are the changes that have taken place to tell us that we are improving and expanding our services, that we are giving access to people in the rural areas? Let's take, for example, Corin Lutheran Hospital that's been in Zozo for so long, for a very long time. We are in an era of technological advancement. What improvements have been made at the Corin Lutheran Hospital so that we can still be taking people in ambulances from Zozo to Phoebe, from Zozo to Monrovia, so that we can address their health needs right there, no matter what the situation is? What improvements have we made at Corin Hospital, for example? Those are the kinds of things that we should be talking about. What have we done at Phoebe Hospital? Those are referral hospitals. Yeah.
So I won't cut you off. I don't know so well when it comes to the history of the 7-day Adventist, and the to that of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. One of the two. We just have to research that small. But I know, we came 1860. Okay, and most of the other churches started to come after. But now we talk about the Adventist University. And it was a very good question that you raised. We got the capacity, both human resource and infrastructure-wise.
Yes.
And we are still talking about discussion of trying to see how we can commence. When other, maybe young institutions have come and almost like say pass or by. But anyway, the revenue is here now, so
yeah. Folks, again, want to say thank you very much for your patience. We do apologize. We had a technical issue that has been corrected. Our revenue is back with us, and we're going to continue this program. Like everyone else, we are all excited, all of us Lutherans, and that we can be joined again by our the Reverend Dr. Eric M. Allison. We will continue from here, and we'll be joining our studio there in Connecticut. Brother Josiah Joker, you can take it away.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you so much. You didn't get discouraged to leave, due to the technical issues. It's good to have you.
I was switching to my phone.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. And we want to apologize.
I'm using my mother's computer.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm not in Pennsylvania, but
I understand. Yes. And you had to stay in Baltimore just for this program. We appreciate everything you're doing because you needed to go back right after service to Philadelphia. Yeah, but we want to say thank you for staying with us, and also say thanks to the family there in Baltimore, for hosting you in a way.
My mother is here. My mother is my hostess.
Oh my, that's good. That's good. Okay, thanks for letting us know, Reverend. We really appreciate the insights you continue to provide. Talking about your service to the church, your education, your role at the GST, especially the last aspect of it, where you are the liaison. We call you our ambassador. Making the arrangement to work, satisfying our side of the deal. That is highly appreciated, Reverend. But we would like to move to another aspect of the conversation, which has to do with what have we not done in the form of challenges? Why are we having those challenges? Don't we have what it takes to address those challenges and to reach our goals? As far as our mission is concerned, we know that Christ talked about preaching, healing, and teaching, which forms the core, of our faith, as a church. Are we really doing that to the extent that we are on track? Have we improved and expanded some of our existing institutions? We're just having the conversation in your absence when you had the technical issues. Our religious institutions, have we developed them to the point that we are improving and expanding the services? The healthcare institutions, are we improving them? What difference have we made? Or are they just stay in the same state as they were when they were established by the missionaries? What have we done? What innovation have we brought to those institutions that will definitely improve and expand the services to humanity?
That's a loaded question, Josiah.
So let's take them one by one, Reverend. Let's take the let's take them one by one.
The question is like you throw the question to a general practitioner, and I had hoped that we would have been more specifics, do more specifics, so that we'll go in depth into. But again, I understand that this is like a generalized conversation today, so that you want to get some of my perspectives on these issues. Again, I go back to the issue of
Reverend. Before you respond, let me intervene shortly, Reverend. You are right. It's about getting your perspective on some of these issues. We don't see you as the health practitioner to talk about the developments that have taken place in the health sector,
yes.
But just to get your perspective as a leader in the LCL on these issues, the educational sector. We know you're not an educationalist. You are, in fact, you should be able to talk about some of them extensively when it comes to the education sector in the church. So that's exactly what we want, your perspective on some of these issues. Where are we with them? Do you see that we have done some improvements so that we can improve and expand the services they were designed to provide?
Let's look at the educational ministry. First, let's look at the preaching ministry of the church.
Yes.
The Lutheran Church in Liberia, like every other Christian church in Liberia, had its founding. And I always like to say that the Lutheran Church in Liberia is unique among the mainline, what you call the mainline denominations in Liberia. The Lutheran Church in Liberia was founded through its founding fathers. As you know, the founding fathers, the Reverend Morris Officer, and later on, the Reverend Henry Hiergard. Those are the two founding fathers of the LCL. They had a vision, and their vision was to leave from the coastal areas where our Americo-Liberian brothers and sisters had settled, and they had these churches. They had churches in the coastal towns, settlements, and cities. But the founders of the Lutheran Church in Liberia decided to go to the interior of the country to establish the gospel, to take Christianity to the interior of Liberia, among the ethnic communities, among the ethnic groups. That is the unique vision of these founding fathers. And that explains the movement of the establishment of Christianity through the work of these founding fathers, from 1860 all the way to 1947, and then to 1963, and then from 1963 to 65, and then from 65 to the present. Those were the three, what I call the three stages of growth and development of the Lutheran Church in Liberia: the missionary stage, and what I call the mission church stage, and then what I call the national church stage, or the national church era. And those three eras had their challenges. For example, from 1860 to 1947, we had statistics indicated there were about 9,000 baptized Christians through the work of the Lutheran missionaries. And then from 1947 to 1963, you had a membership of 30,000, from 9,000 to 30,000 by 1965. And then from 1965 to 1995, you had a membership of 70,000 baptized Lutheran Christians in Liberia. Just imagine from 1995 to the present, Uh, I understand we're ranging in the neighborhood of 120,000 plus baptized Lutheran Christians spread out in the 15 counties of the Republic of Liberia, and there are ministries of the LCL now in the Ivory Coast, in Ghana, and the Republic of Guinea. In terms of the preaching ministry, in terms of the and I think we have something like in Liberia itself, we have like 52 plus parishes, and those parishes are subdivided into congregations which generally we call preaching places or preaching point, but those are genuine congregations that have been organized where the gospel is preached and the holy sacraments are celebrated. So you have something like 52 plus parishes. If you look at the number of congregations under those parishes, you're talking about somewhere between 300 to 500 congregations of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, spread out in 15 counties, or the nine ecclesiastical districts of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. Then you have pretty close to 75 pastors in active service today. You're talking about more than 100 plus ordained deacons and deaconesses, several licensed evangelists, assigned evangelists that are all carrying out the ministry, the preaching ministry of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. So the Lutheran Church in Liberia is growing, is spiritually vibrant today, and in terms of the educational ministry of the church, like I said, and this is Jerry's concern, we are in the process, as I speak, of developing a tertiary institution as a church, a 162-year-old plus church. That process is active, is intentional, is ongoing. And within the next 4 to 5 years, you'll be talking about a full-fledged Lutheran higher institution of learning, uniquely Lutheran, with STEM programs in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, emphasis in the Republic of Liberia, to help to train young people, the future leaders of the church and the society, not only serving Liberia, but the Mano River sub-region, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Liberia, and Ivory Coast. So that is in the process, is intentional, and all of you know about this process. In fact, I am privileged to be serving currently as a member, from where I sit, as a member of the ad hoc board of trustees of the Phoebe Esther Bacon College of Health Sciences, which is the first constituent college of the Lutheran University program in Liberia, which is an extension of the educational ministry of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. And eventually, like I said, there is going to be a fully operated Lutheran University with focus, with emphasis in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the next few years, 4 to 5 years. So it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Reverend Jesse King is the national coordinator of the university program. We have here in the United States, in North America, rather, the Association of Liberian Lutherans in the Americas, which is a partner organization with the LCL in working on this university program. So a lot is happening, Jerry and Josiah, behind the scenes. And I'm sure that you people, in one way or the other, are definitely aware of this, and your inputs, your creativity are highly, highly anticipated.
Yeah, Reverend, as I continue to say, thank you so much for such resourceful information you continue to share about the works of the church. And I will tell you the truth that I was in Philadelphia at one of the conventions of ALIA, the Association of Liberian Lutherans in the Americas. I even did a presentation on that Lutheran University. Bishop Sianglo was there. Yeah, we're all trying to contribute in the best way we can to ensure that that dream becomes a reality. But we have to be able to talk about these issues, and those who can better present those situations people like you, Reverend Allison, when you come and tell the audience, tell Lutherans, and tell the people where we are with such development initiative. I appreciate your insight on the spiritual growth of the church, increasing our faith, the number of Lutherans that have spread across the country, and the MRU sub-region is true. And I know that during the war as well, I don't know what or not would take that as a positive aspect of the war, because during the war, we were able to evangelize a lot, to
the church thrives during persecution.
Yeah, during persecution. Got that. Good. Across in Guinea, in Cote d'Ivoire.
Read the book of Acts.
Also in Sierra Leone. Yeah, we were able to spread, our faith, our doctrine across those areas. And today we can boast of the congregations we have across, not only in Liberia, in those 3 countries as well. It's true. That speaks to the level of the spiritual growth of the church. You will talk about the education sector. Sometimes we wonder why I say that we took so long to develop a system when we have existed for more than 160 years in the country. And I know you, as a religious leader, such as your caliber, will tell me that there's time and season for everything, which is true. But we are still compared to reflect and then ask ourselves the hard question: why didn't we have a secondary school system that was well organized and structured? We were just operating in the splintered faction, having the Zozo Lutheran Mission School that I went to. It had nothing to do with the operation of a school system in place, a Lutheran school system. Prove me wrong if it is wrong. We had a Lutheran Training Institute. Were they really operating from a school system approach, or are we just coming to the reality, rising to the occasion to have a school system that will bring all of our schools under one umbrella as the Lutheran school system?
The Lutheran Church in Liberia has been one of the pioneering Christian communities in the history of Liberia to contribute to the human resource capacity development of the country, not just the church, but the country as a whole. And like I said, it goes beyond the borders of the country. You can take one institution, in historical perspective, the Total Lutheran Mission, the Bellefontaine Lutheran Mission School, the Lutheran Training Institute, the Zozo Lutheran Mission School, and all of these Lutheran institutions, educational ministry institutions, they have contributed, they have produced people in various walks of life in the Liberian society over the years, nurses, doctors that can boast, of having a Lutheran Christian education added to their lives. Lawyers, medical doctors, engineers, a lot of Liberians and other nationals that were fortunate to have been educated, Nigerians, Ghanaians, Sierra Leoneans, by the Lutheran school system in Liberia over the years. So the school system, the Lutheran school system, the educational system is organized. You know that I know that we do have an LCL school system that is
Now,
coordinated by a director at the central administration level, and there are coordinators in the various districts
I'm
of
sorry.
the church.
I'm sorry, Doc. Let me just intervene quickly before I lose my thought.
Yes.
Uh, my question is why we had to do it so lately? Because I know around when we started to put a system in place, a structure in place to have a director, a coordinator, to have representatives in the different parts of the country for a system coordination approach. I mean, why did it take us so long to reach this point? That's the question.
It's that's a typical Liberian what I say, you know, why have we taken so long as a church? Churches are like they have uh, stages of growth and development. The various sectors of the stages of growth and development. So, and again, you say, okay, yeah, everything has time. That is true. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 to 6, everything has time. Even in your own life, you look at your lifespan on this earth, your life has had stages of growth and development throughout your lifespan, and you can pinpoint those stages in your growth and development where you've achieved certain aspects of your growth, your personal growth, professional growth, and development. And it took time. It took time for them to concretize those stages, for you to understand there were factors responsible, and if you listen to me carefully, I divided the history of the LCR, the 162-year history, into three
The state.
categories: the missionary era, the mission church era, and the national church era. And the missionary era started from 1860 to 1947, the mission church era from 1947 to
19.
1965, the national church era from 1965 to the present. So if you want to focus on us, the national church era, where the leaders of the church were African nationals, Liberian nationals, you're talking about us, all of us here, then we can start probing ourselves from 1965 to the present, in terms of putting systems into place, putting structures into place, uh, developing building the capacity of our institutions in order to cope with the changing times. We're in the 21st century, and you're talking about being sensitive to the application of technology, the application of science, the application of everything that it takes to bring the church to 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 um, to bring the church to the reality of the 21st century, everything that it takes. And that is a huge task. It requires the input of all Lutheran Christians in Liberia, all Lutheran Christians. And I will pinpoint the 120 plus thousand Lutheran Christians spread out in the 15 counties of Liberia, who make up the Lutheran Church in Liberia today. The statistics might even be low, and I have my reasons for that. But let's take the official statistics presented: 120,000 plus Lutheran Christians, in Liberia, in various sectors of the society, various professional capacities, gifts, talents, and abilities. With proper organization, with proper vision and leadership, a lot can be accomplished. The sleeping giant can be awakened if we consider the LCL as a sleeping giant. A lot can be done.
Absolutely, Reverend. You divided the period of the church in the three stages, which is highly appreciated. And I would like to say much of our questions will be on the latter stage, the national church, which is understandable. We can be asking these kind of developmental questions from the time of the missionaries, which we did not have much control, but now we, the understanding is that we took ownership of the church during the latter stage that you just elaborated, which is good. But the education sector is one aspect, and I like the way you talk about improvement. We had schools being operated. Now it is under a Lutheran Church in Liberia school system, an umbrella, which I can attest to. Also, my concern, like other colleagues, was that, why it took long. And I like the fact that you brought into perspective the time and season for everything, which is true. That's why I even made reference to that before you started responding to the question. And I said, I thought you would have referenced that as well. Because yes, it's important. There's time for everything, even in our personal lives. There are stages, and time for everything to happen. But let's move to the health sector, Reverend. We know that the Lutheran Church in Liberia has contributed so much, so immensely, to the health needs of the people of Liberia and the MRU sub-region. In fact, the current Lutheran Hospital and the Phoebe Hospital were once upon a time considered major referral hospitals. You have people from Guinea, from Sierra Leone, that were brought in there. We used to have huge influx of patients from those countries to those hospitals. Highly recognized, in our country as major healthcare institutions. What has changed over the years in our national life as a church in terms of what improvements have we made at these institutions that will help to expand the services of those institutions to people in various parts of the country? Have we made any improvement from your perspective that you think is okay, that is improving the services that they were designed to deliver in the various settings they are?
Are you referring to the
The
healthcare delivery institutions?
Healthcare delivery institutions, yes. I was just citing Phoebe as current hospital as examples. Yeah.
Again, the LCL healing ministry is expressed through these healthcare delivery institutions and other programs like the trauma healing and reconciliation program. Not only catering to the physical health needs of the people, the mental, but also the emotional and spiritual health of the people of Liberia and beyond. And if you look at the two major expressions of the healing arm of the LCL today in Liberia, the Current Memorial Lutheran Hospital and the Phoebe Hospital, those two expressions of the healing ministry of the Lutheran Church in Liberia have come a long way. We just celebrated 100 years, the 100th anniversary of the work of the LCL through its healing arm, one of its healing arms, the expression of its healing ministry, the Phoebe Hospital. The Phoebe Hospital, has come a long way. As you know, the Phoebe Hospital went hand in hand with the School of Nursing, the Health Workers Training Institution. That's one of the oldest health workers training institutions in West Africa, if not the continent of Africa, established in 1921, and has been training healthcare delivery workers or practitioners over the past 100 years. And there are a lot of Liberians a lot of West Africans that can give credit to the Phoebe Hospital and School of Nursing. Not talking about the current hospital and Esther Bacon School of Nursing and Midwifery that have helped to develop and build the capacity of a lot of Liberians and other nationals that took advantage of those training programs. In terms of the need for improvement of infrastructure, improvement of the professional capacity of these institutions, definitely. Every institution needs improvement. So definitely these institutions need, there are rooms for improvement. And I think every effort is being made to improve the quality of services of these healing expressions of the ministry of the Lutheran Church in Liberia.
Okay. There you have it from Dr. Allison. Efforts are being made to improve the quality of services in terms of developing the human capacity, in terms of bringing new ideas. We are in the era of technological advancement, bringing the kind of technology that is needed, so that the institutions can continue to improve and expand their services. There you have it from Dr. Allison. Now we will go to Jerry and Willie for last questions. We've been on for long with Dr. Allison. We will be closely wrapping up. But before then, I'd like to go to my colleague, Jerry in Freetown. And after that, Jerry will bring in Willie before we can close.
All right. Thank you, Josiah, and thank you, Reverend Dr. Allison. Am I audible enough now? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Reverend Allison.
Yeah, you coming in. You coming in. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So we would just want you to just chime in a bit or throw a little light on the, our relationship with the state as a moral voice. You talk a lot about the fact that we've been in an economical group where we, the LCL and others, I think the Liberal Council of Churches and, and then LCC. And we together express what we think, are vices within the society. We are now facing a new reality. Things are changing. And sometimes we understand from our candid critics that the Lutheran Church in Liberia losing its essence when it comes to speaking on vices within society as it used to be before. What is your own perspective of that? Are we losing our essence as a moral voice within the society, or are we, still strong, but there are areas for improvement that we need to work on? What is your own perspective on that?
Jerry is he's always, the church is the moral. The church is the voice of the moral conscience of every society. And the Lutheran Church in Liberia, as we are essential part of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. So whatever you and I say on this platform will reflect the voice, part of the voice of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, what the church is thinking in terms of its relationship and interaction with the state, or what somebody will call the government. And over the past 162 years, the church has had a good working relationship with the state, with the government, and there have been areas of collaboration, areas of cooperation, because the church has a mission. The church's mission is very clear. The state also has a mission to its members of the society. Similarly, the church also has a mission, a responsibility, a calling for that matter, to all the members of the society. So the church has always been in a good working relationship with the state, with the government from 1860. As you know, in 1860, President Stephen Allen Benson was the president, the head of state of Liberia at the time when the 40 founding members, those young boys and girls from the Congo basin that were on the recaptured ship from the Atlantic slave trade, were handed over to Morris Officer and Henry Hager. And those 40 Congolese boys and girls were the founding members of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. The parish today we call Reed Memorial Lutheran Parish. So that was a very good collaboration and cooperation between the church and the state in terms of the spiritual and social and moral development of the citizens of the country. Liberia was in its formative stages at the time, and that has happened over the years. And that's how the church has contributed to the human resource capacity development of the society. In terms of the church as a voice, a moral voice in the society, as you know, the church speaks at various levels. The church speaks from the lowest level to the highest level. So, and it's regular. It's regular. When the pastors, the evangelists, the deacons, the district deans, the bishop, when they speak, I believe they are addressing matters of moral essence, matters of social relevance, matters of economic relevance to the life of the people of Liberia. So I think the church has come a long way in understanding its role as the moral conscience of society. You just have to take time off to listen to some of the sermons of our pastors, our district deans, and the bishop, and you get to hear the voice of the church through these leaders of the church in the society.
All right.
Ready? Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Brother Josiah, you speaking?
Sorry, team. I said Gerald was going to turn over to Willie, and then from there we're going to close. But I got touched by Jerry's question and Revan's response. The stages at which the church speaks. That's very interesting. It's true. As we talk right now, and as you speak to our audience right now, as a religious leader that is highly respected, and the issue of morality is highlighted. The fact that Reverend Dr. Allison is speaking on these issues, we look at it from a religious standpoint. That's very good. And we also speak at the level of the different leaders of the church. You could be a deacon, you could be a pastor, you could be head of a parish. You're respected in society, and what you do matters a lot in the life of the members of the society. And this interesting relationship between the church and government is, I see it to be a tricky balance, because the relationship from the time of the missionaries to this point, I think, has shifted a little bit. And I will give you a case in point, Reverend. During the time of Madame Salif, I always like to make reference to that. The Liberia Council of Churches released, I would say, I would use the word, an uncomfortable press release indicating that the government was very corrupt. The Liberia Council of Churches was clear in its press release that the government was corrupt and calling on the government to address corruption related issues across the governance system. And Louis Brown was the Minister of Information. His response on behalf of the government was that, quote, yes, we may be corrupt, but the ministers and officials of government are the leaders and members of your churches and your mosques. To me, that spoke volume. Why am I making reference to that scenario? It said that there is a moral decline to the point that the church is becoming silent on moral issues in the church. Yes, our pastors preach, they do. But the church to speak as a voice, probably through the bishop. Let's take, for example, Michael Pakla Francis. He was vocal, he was direct about the issue, speaking to government directly. I don't see our church in recent years, and not just this time of Bishop Siangolo's leadership. I don't see the church to be so vocal on social issues. I don't see the church to be so vocal on moral issues in society. I don't see that happening. I could be wrong, but your perspective matters here. Is there a decline, a moral decline, to the point that the church is becoming silent? And what is causing that, if that's the case?
Josiah, the issue of the church speaking on issues of morality or spirituality in the society, you know, I like to be, I don't like to be general. I like to be specific. You know, if there's a specific moral issue that the church needs to address herself to in the society or in the state, I think the church ought to speak. When the voice of the church needs to be heard, the church ought to speak, because the church is the prophetic voice in the society, in the state, in the nation. The church is the voice of God in the state, or to the state, to the society, to the community. And I think the church, you know, the church ought to live up to its calling, to her calling in society. That is very important. And we cannot overemphasize the need for the church to continue to play its prophetic role, its pastoral role in society. The church must rise up to the occasion and address issues of spirituality and morality in the society. And the Liberian society is no exception. It's no exception.
There you have it, Willie.
Thank you so much. Viewers, we want to thank you again for being with us, and also to our guest, the Reverend Dr. Eric and Allison. We know the time is fast spent. So, Reverend, quickly, in just perhaps I will say 2 minutes, then you can just give us your closing statement. Uh, I want to agree with you that the church, and I must be specific, the Lutheran Church in Liberia, uh, the church, like you said, the church is responding, the church is speaking, but one may kind of wonder, like, how should I use the word, like, how effective is our church speaking left from the top to the, down to its members? Because a case in point that on the issue of some of these uh, 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 death, cases that were going on in the country, coming up with a lot of pictures, people, like people were being kidnapped and their mutilated bodies were found, like some of the alleys and some other places. I remember the church had a press statement, and that, I mean, I really really applaud our church for. But there are so many issues that we expect the church, the days of the you know interreligious council, the days of like our brother Josiah pointed to, the Liberian Council of Churches, when they were really ready, when they were actively involved, speaking on ills in the society. I mean, it's like it's actually taking some long time for for the church to speak. I think that's the concern a lot of people have. I think that's where my concern align too with those who have those concerns. That yes, we agree the church is speaking. We know the church is a bulldog, but it's sometimes the church just seems like a two-flat bulldog. That is just the concern. I mean, Reverend. But again, I want to say thank you very much, and I would just you the rest of the 2 minutes to you, so that maybe you can respond to the comment. Mine was not really like a question, but it's like a comment in response to some of your questions.
Yeah.
And if you can make a comment to that, how the church is slow in responding, and then you can give us your comment for the evening.
Thank you, Willie. To respond to your comment, I think like look at look at the history of Israel. The history of Israel is the history that is well known for uh, the ministry of the prophets. The prophets, you have the major prophets, the minor prophets, but every prophet was called by God to address, to speak for and on behalf of God, to be the voice of God, the moral conscience to their particular generation, their particular time in history, in the history of Israel. The same it is for the church and its leaders, particular historical context, in the nation. The church should understand where is where is where she is in the history of her ministry, in the history of the nation to which God has called her to be the prophetic voice. It's
The
very
voice of-
important for the church to understand that, so that the church
yeah.
will be able to address herself to issues of spirituality and morality in that particular environment or that particular nation or context in which she finds herself.
Right.
So I think the church should not shy away from playing the prophetic role.
Exactly.
Lutheran Church in Liberia is no exception.
No.
That you talking about Josiah talk about issuing press statements on specific incidents, like someone is deprived of their life in a community or
Rape cases.
yeah, people putting graphic pictures on social media. Uh, uh, the church must be intentional in its prophetic, but at the same church.
All right, folks. The internet is not our friend today. Connection, but I would say on the overall, we had a successful program. We're just gonna wait a little bit and see, maybe the revenue is gonna join us. But on the third Sunday, we are gonna be having the Lutheran University, the proposed Lutheran University. We're gonna be having a team from Liberia, and we're also going to be having a team from here in the U.S. They are going to be joining us here in studio. That is on the 4th Sunday of this month, and we are going to be talking specifically when it comes to the Lutheran University. We are going to be speaking to the Lutheran University specifically on the 4th Sunday in this month. So, folks, we want to say thank you very much for being with us. To our studio host, all the way in Freetown, Sierra Leone. It's pretty much lit in Sierra Leone this time. And also to our studio host, our lead host for the evening in Connecticut. Colleagues, what do you make of today's program? Maybe we can just take a minute each before we close.
Yeah, let me go. And I think it was great, despite the technical challenges our guest had. I think he was able to share some good insights about the subject. And it's really good. We should be able to bring Reverend McKay, as he indicated, who took over from him at GST. I'm interested in that GST story, and I'm sure our audience will be interested in that as well. And I think we had a very good conversation. Yeah.
And I just want to join Josiah to say thank you, Woody, and our guest was very fantastic. I'm not surprised. I expected nothing less than what he presented, although he was very cautious in his presentation, not to not to implicate anybody, but at the same time, answering the question directly or indirectly. Like telling Josiah, he's not there, but yes, there are troubles, glitches in the marriages. It is clear that all of these things, but it's good that the platform is trying to each out all of these relevant and necessary topics. So our listening audience and viewers who are Lutherans, especially the young folks that are following us, can be able to firstly understand what Lutheranism is all about, and to also understand that we had stages in the Lutheran Church, and we significantly impacted society, and we are still doing though on a snail pace. But there are always hope, and we can rest assured that when we listen to the other guests, we have their own perspective on how far we are in terms of some of these issues that have been raised in the generic form to Dr. Allison, for example, the health. For example, the education, for example, even the moral consciousness. And we're looking forward to seeing if we could be able to get a bishop himself on the platform, right, so that we can be able to talk administration of the church, so we can know where the endowment fund is. We can know what's happening to the pension fund. We can know what's happening to the church in terms of reaching out to the social needs of the members and all of these issues. They are critical issues, and when we're talking the church, we're talking truth. And this is Lutheran Connection. There's nothing to hide. We say as we see it, and we just get a response from the guests. So, Wade, I want to say thank you. Josiah, I want to say thank you, and I think it was a very good talk show, as always.
Yeah, as always, Brother Jerry. So again, viewers, we want to say thank you for sticking with us today. Next Sunday, we want to invite you again. Next Sunday, we're going to be having our own sister. We're going to be having our own Lutheran sister. She's one of the twins that, like, I would say a whole lot of us Lutherans know very well. She is Sis Neswa B.N. Livingstone. Sis Livingstone is going to be with us. She is running a humanitarian program in Liberia, catering to the needs of children, helping them with feeding, helping with in education sector when it comes to health, emergency care. So we're going to be having Sis Neswa B.N. Livingstone. Sis Neswa B.N. Livingstone is going to be here, and she is going to be talking about her program that is called RAGE. And before we can just close the show, I believe our guest just want to say a word or two. He's back in the back end. So we're just going to bring him. So maybe we give him a minute to say a word or two before we can leave. Reverend Allison, we know that internet is not our favor. It's not in our favor today. It's not our best friend. But we're just gonna give you a minute or two to wrap up and to have your closing comment this evening.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Josiah, for this conversation. I think we should continue, but I want to thank the three of you and Abel, who is not here today, for this bold initiative that you people have undertaken to engage the stakeholders of Lutheran Church in Liberia in its life, in its programs, in its ministries and projects. This is very, very essential to help the church to understand where we are, how far God has brought us, and where we are and where we need to go with God in obedience to God's mission that God has entrusted this church to. You can just imagine what Morris Officer and Reverend Officer Henry Hagar went through 162 years ago. Here we are today, 162 years later, and we're struggling to understand what is our mission. What does God require of us as a national church? But I tell you what, it is no mistake. We need to understand how far God has brought us, what God expects of us today, and God will lead us into the future. And so thank you. This is just, for me, the beginning of a long process, a long relationship in our conversations, in our interactions.
Yes.
So I'm available anytime. Willie knows how to get to me. Willie knows how to get me.
Yeah.
He's one of our congregants in People's Community Lutheran Church. Yeah. Though he's in Georgia, but he's still in Baltimore. Yes. One way or the other. And so I love the Lutheran Church in Liberia. I'm a Lutheran Christian. But like John Wesley once said, the whole world is my parish. So we are serving God. We're serving humanity where we are. We're serving the Lutheran Christian community where we are. And we're still working with the Lutheran Church in Liberia in our own vantage, our own vantage point. So we're in touch. And let's remain in touch, brothers. Thank you very much for this opportunity today to have this conversation. Let's keep it up.
There you have it, folks.
Somebody want me to. Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Somebody quickly just texted me. Somebody just sent me a message. They want me to ask Revy quickly. Revy, are you considering to become a candidate in the 2022 bishopric election or anytime in the future? The person just sent me a message. Say, please ask Revy before he leaves.
I was aspiring, but I'm no more aspiring. I'm not a part of the process.
Okay, folks. There you have it.
Let me please reserve comments, yeah.
Thank you.